Hey, what's up YouTube? Ricky Carruth here. Today I want to come to you and talk to you about finding your niche market within your market. You know, like as far as how do you pick out a subdivision or complex to start targeting? Okay, it's a question I get asked very often. And finding a niche and targeting a specific complex or subdivision, this is what I specialize in. This is how I built my business, farming, circle prospecting, whatever you want to call it. So everybody wants to know, how exactly do you go about picking out the best group of owners to target? So this is what I say. First, you need to research your MLS. Pull up the last couple years of sales, right? And you know, go back further if you want to and really get a true idea of the history of your area, prices, and where they've been, and through the crash, where they were at the peak. All that's really good information to know when you're trying to figure out what your niche market is going to be, what type of property you're going to sell, and more specifically, which group of owners we're going to go after. So the first thing you do is the research. MLS, you pull up, all the data. It's good to know the history, but when we start targeting in and really focusing in on the group of property owners we're going to target, we want to first identify the type of property that is selling the best. Which type of property is selling the best in the least amount of time for the highest amount of money. That's what we're looking for. So a lot of agents, they try to do it in a way which they start researching subdivisions, right? They start picking out different subdivisions, different streets, and they try to do it that way and figure out which subdivision or complex or area has the most transactions or the highest price points with the most transactions, stuff like that. I think that's okay. That's not a bad way to do it. And, to be honest with you guys, nothing is a lose situation here. Everything's a win-win. You could just throw a rock and hit a subdivision. It doesn't matter which subdivision or what group of owners. It really doesn't matter which one you target. They're all good, right? Some are better than others, but none are bad. Targeting any subdivision is a good thing. So don't overthink it, is another tip I would give you. Just go. Get your feet wet. If you started out with something horrible like a trailer park, with 20 or 30, mobile homes, that's okay. Get in there and figure out the system of getting to know the property owners, how to start creating and developing and maintaining lifelong relationships with those property owners. In the beginning, it's the skills that you're after, not necessarily the properties. Then you can turn right around and say, okay, I understand how the system works. I understand how this process is. Now I can take what I've learned with this and I can apply it to $300,000 to $400,000 properties, or $500,000 to $800,000, or $1 million, wherever you feel like the niche you want to be in. So what I like to do when I'm trying to determine for a new agent what is actually the best case scenario for them in terms of what type of properties have the highest transactions for the highest price point, I look at the price points as a whole. I don't necessarily look at each subdivision yet, okay? The first thing I'm going to do is pull up all the different price points. So, everything under 100, 1 to 200, 2 to 300, 3 to 400. I like to go in hundreds and kind of go from there. So I'll pull up everything, I'll study, I'll spend a day studying MLS, and I'll pull up the different price points and all the transactions, and I'll scan through them, and I'll really kind of study what's going on there. And what I'm looking for is the highest price point with the highest number of transactions within that over the past year. So, if I'm under 100,000, and let's say we're in an area that has 250 sales under 100,000. Okay, great. 1 to 200 is, let's say, 200 sales. Okay, then 2 to 300 is 150 sales. So the higher we go, the lower it gets, right? But then between 3 and 400, it jumps back up to 200 sales. Okay, and then 4 to 500, it goes back down to 100 sales, right? So if you look at a table of all the stats I just gave you that were hypothetical stats, you'll see that the 3 to 400 range would be the best or the highest, even though there's 250 transactions under 100,000, and there's 200 between 1 and 200,000, there's still the same amount between 1 and 200,000 as there is between 3 and 400,000. So 3 and 400,000 would be your target price point. So what you do from there is you look at the market, you look at all the subdivisions, and you start trying to figure out what subdivision is within that 3 to 400,000 range. And you kind of reverse engineer yourself into what subdivision is in that price point. That's how you find your subdivision. So I like to reverse engineer the process, and I like to go from what price point is selling the best, right? And then I find the subdivision instead of studying the subdivisions and trying to figure out which subdivision sells the best, right? So I kind of back into it. So that's how I kind of go through and try to help a new agent determine which price point and which subdivision they should start targeting. So what I would say in the hypothetical scenario that we just discussed is I would do 3 to 400,000, but I would also maybe do 1 to 200,000. I like to do a secondary price point. Okay, so I look at it as a whole, and I want to pick two. I want to pick what I think the best two are, and I like a lower price point and a higher price point, whatever the best two are. So that helps me be diversified in the markets. All my eggs aren't in one basket. I'm doing, I'm going after two different scenarios, and so that helps me be diversified in the market. Whereas if things really slow down in the 3 to 400 range, I've still got the 1 to 200 range as a backup plan. And keep in mind, guys, 1 to 200,000, 150,000, a $200,000 home, we're still looking at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in commissions. Okay, so I believe it's very important to stay in the lower price ranges that are much easier to sell, right? And also the higher price ranges that still have a lot of transactions. And this will diversify your career portfolio, if you will, of the different neighborhoods and subdivisions that you're farming. And I think that puts you in a really good position short and long term. So that's kind of how I figure out exactly where I'm going to be when I'm trying to position myself in the market. Every market is different with their price points and transactions, population, market trends. It all differs. So be sure to do your research. Don't spend a whole lot of time on it. Do not overthink it. Everything is a win-win. And get out there and kill it. Don't waste any time. Start contacting owners, creating lifelong relationships, and building a huge business for the future while creating a great short-term business now. So hope you guys have a good rest of the day and got some value out of this video. And click subscribe below and let me know if there's ever anything I can do for you. Have a great day.